Alrighty, I found this video on the YouTube. Pride Month Fell Off by Finding Sky. Right off the bat, yeah, she's definitely got the tomboy vibe for sure. Well, anyway, I'll throw on the video and take it from there.
Pride Month fell off. In June 2025, companies that once turned their logos into rainbows are now withdrawing their financial support from the upcoming Pride parades. Target no longer has their merch at the front of the store. Instead, they replace it with t-shirts for the 4th of July.
Gee, I wonder why. It probably has something to do with America's support for same-sex marriage. It's gone down because people are tired of it. And why? Because for years, people had the LGBT stuff rammed down their throat. And corporate sees that people don't care about it anymore. So, they're dropping it. Because all corporate cares about is making line go up. That's also why corporate likes illegal immigrants. Money is the honey that makes the line go up.
It's hilarious because it's both a symbolic and literal representation of putting America first. Where there was once rainbows and pride slogans, there's now American flags.
Is corporate putting America first? Nope. They just see there's a profit to it.
This shift was pretty predictable. I've made several videos over the years about how identity politics and pride parades were damaging the public perception of the LGBT community. And with recent stats showing that people's support for gay marriage has dropped considerably, it's not hard to see why. When a culture is created around the idea that you shouldn't care what other people think of you, it sounds really good in theory. Just be yourself, live your life, don't worry about anyone else's opinions. But when you take this ideology to an extreme, you end up with people naked on the street.
You know, for the longest time, I thought public nudity was a crime, but I guess only when certain people do it.
It's this exact disregard for the public opinion that damaged our reputation. While many in this community hold the position that we shouldn't care whether or not our actions are deemed acceptable by the public, I hold the opposite position. I say we have a responsibility to show the public that we want to act equally, be treated equally, and don't expect any special treatment. The LGBT movement started out as simple as wanting everyone to mind their own business about what was happening in our bedrooms. And yet now everyone's yelling from rooftops, "Look at what I do in my bedroom." You lost the plot.
As a straight guy, I don't care what you do in your bedroom, whether you're gay or straight, just as long as it's legal. But when I see these gay pride parades and people walking around half naked, it's disgusting.
And we lost the public when LGBT became more associated with degeneracy than it did with equality. Pride parades have unfortunately become associated with hypersexualization and ideological agendas, even though this was not the original intention of these events. It was supposed to be a celebration of our freedoms, not a public display of fetish. But unfortunately, it got co-opted by a bunch of people who we can all agree were acting inappropriately.
Inappropriately is a mild way of saying it. And this woman, she's complaining about how the LGBT was co-opted. Well, whose fault is that? People like her. Why? Because people like her didn't gatekeep. And what is gatekeeping? You keep out the troublemakers. That's what gatekeeping means. However, people like her didn't do that, and now they lost control of their movement. And now she's complaining about what's become of the LGBT.
I understand that a majority of Pride attendees aren't partaking in this behavior, but the majority of media does not have this same understanding. Allowing this type of behavior at these events is damaging to the image of the entire community, even if it is only showing the extreme minority, which is why I almost feel relieved to finally see Pride Month falling off.
The extreme minority, corrupting, co-opting, the bunch, the whole movement. Reminds me of a saying, one bad apple spoils the bunch.
Most of us don't want to be the center of attention and have been anxiously waiting for the day when the alphabet soup discourse would become old news. An unnecessary amount of attention has been drawn to this community, making the problems within it that much worse.
I would disagree with her. I would say this attention is good because why? It's drawing attention to those problems. And the only way you fix problems is by talking about them. But when people tried to talk about them, they were called homophobes. So, the only other way to fix the problems is to shine the light of attention on those problems. And this woman doesn't like that because it's making her look bad.
It should not be a controversial take to say that your gender identity and sexuality should not be the sole dictators of your belief system. You can be a gay conservative. You can be a straight tomboy. There's unlimited variation in the human condition, and anyone trying to convince you otherwise has an agenda.
My whole life, my understanding of conservatives, they want to conserve traditions and things like nuclear family and such. How can you conserve nuclear family if you're pro-LGBT? That's a noodle scratcher for me. Now, as for this woman's take on tomboys, I don't think tomboys are naturally gay. I think they're just women who don't like all the girly stuff. Now, as for this woman, yeah, I get it, she's a tomboy. But my take on homosexuality goes like this. I've heard them say that there's nothing physically wrong with them, it's all in their head. Yeah, exactly. It's called brain chemistry. Can brain chemistry be thrown out of whack? Yes, with chemicals. And if you're asking yourself, what chemicals? The chemicals that are in certain plastics. Those plastics make what? Food wraps, drink bottles. Hell, even some clothes is made using plastic.
The constant pushing of people to adopt the stereotypical beliefs of what it means to be straight or gay is what's truly regressive. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking that their way is the only way. My comment section loves to call me a pick-me, but the truth is that this community needs people like me pushing back against the mainstream LGBT narrative, because people will respect us so much more when we're seen as singular individuals as opposed to a homogenous group. Not all gay people want queer ideology taught in elementary schools. Not all trans people believe that you should lose your job because you use the wrong pronouns. It's the most extreme of us that get the majority of the publicity and attention, but it is absolutely not representative of the majority. Many US corporations this year stopped supporting pride events that celebrate LGBTQ plus culture and rights, raising questions about corporate America's commitment to the cause.
The only cause that corporate America, or corporate overall, cares about and believes in is money. Make line go up. I mean, for crying out loud, they're literally pushing mass immigration in Europe for cheap labor, replacement labor, and also division.
The moves come as President Donald Trump has attempted to roll back some LGBTQ plus friendly federal policies. This article goes on to yap about how it's all Trump's fault, but it doesn't address the real culprit of the declining support.
Yep, when in doubt, blame Trump. That's the easiest method. Heaven forbid we look into the root causes and try to address those.
It's important to decentralize Trump from the conversation because it's not Trump, it's the people that voted for him for reasons just like this. There's a cultural narrative around the extreme progression of the LGBT movement that drove a majority of American voters to choose Trump in the first place. You're not getting a pushback from the Trump administration. You're getting a pushback from the majority of the population. Companies are resourceful. They are clever at identifying trends and studying their environment and their customers' needs. But those needs change and corporations adjust. Yeah, this is just a professional way of saying that companies will do whatever it takes to make more money in the moment. I made a whole video about this exact subject.
Here's a little side note. I remember when Bud Light put Dylan Mulvaney on a can, and what happened? People boycotted Bud Light. I wonder, are people still boycotting Bud Light, or have they gone back to drinking Bud Light? I wouldn't, but that's just me.
When you try to force your beliefs onto someone and gaslight them that any other way of thinking is immoral and dangerous, you don't change their honest beliefs. You don't give them a cause to fight for. All you're giving them is an incentive to lie. You're giving them a bandwagon to jump on, a trend to follow. So as soon as the mainstream narrative changes, as soon as the trend switches, all of it crumbles. You think you've made a change, but you've only proven how easy you are to fool.
I disagree with her. LGBT isn't easy to fool. They came around and they said, hey, you're either with us or against us. If you're not with us, you're a homophobe. And people, they didn't want to be called a homophobe, so they sided with the LGBT. It's the same thing about people afraid of being called racist. So what happened? People stopped being afraid of being called a homophobe.
A growing slice of the public has grown tired of companies taking a stance on social and political issues. So-called brand activism reached its peak between 2016 and 2022, a period of social upheaval around the pandemic, police brutality, and transgender rights. But research has since found a growing number of American consumers don't want companies taking positions on such topics. Yeah, no shit. People want to be able to sip a beer without Dylan Mulvaney's goofy face on it. There have always been people who said, I don't want my toothpaste to have an opinion, I just want to use my toothpaste. But the tide has shifted, and research shows there are more people that feel this way now.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I used to love Coca-Cola, then I heard about this. Coca-Cola asks its workers to be less white to fight racism.
Do you really need research to figure that out? People are tired of everything being over-politicized. We want to sip on our favorite soda without it being a political statement. Rick Gomez, Target's chief commercial officer, told reporters that it's important to celebrate Heritage Months. They drive sales growth for us. Do you really think these companies ever gave a solitary fuck? Of course not.
Heritage Month? That's the first time I'm hearing about that. Though I wouldn't be surprised if corporations started pushing that. They could sell all kinds of stuff. Well, just as long as they don't try pushing white heritage.
These corporations will go wherever the money is. They have no desire to be involved in controversy or get caught holding an unpopular opinion in fear of alienating their customers. There was a viral post made on X responding to the graph that shows acceptance of same-sex marriage has declined significantly. It took us 9 years to go from we just want to get married to we will steal your children from you and mutilate them if they claim to be transgender. No one can argue that gay marriage didn't pave the way for this. One of my greatest regrets in life is supporting this abomination when I was libertarian in my 20s. This entire thing should be outlawed everywhere.
This Christine Hayes person is right. 9 years ago, all they wanted was to get married. And now it's, oh, we want to indoctrinate your kids and transition them in less than a decade. Go back 9 years ago, I never even heard of transgendered people. And I get why this person's so upset. They supported it because, yeah, they just want to get married. Because love is love, right? And now they see what's happening, and they're like, how could I ever have supported this? And there's a saying for that, right? If you give an inch, they'll take a mile. Everybody thought, oh, they just want to get married. And now they want more. Or maybe the heads of the LGBT were like, okay, we got what we wanted. Now that we got what we wanted, if we don't keep going, the LGBT is going to fade, and we're going to lose our cushy positions. This person finishes with, the entire thing should be outlawed everywhere. Yeah, good luck with that, because even conservatives are pro-LGBT now. As for me, I kind of view it as a mental illness, so there.
This post is both nonsensical and incredibly disappointing, but with almost 30,000 likes, it reveals the reality of how many people view LGBT issues. People do not appreciate how quickly and forcefully queer ideology has escalated. We went from gay marriage to threatening people's jobs that were being misgendered in the span of just a few years. People were fine with allowing others to do their thing as long as it didn't affect them, but now it does. I recognize that most straight people, most Republicans even, don't hold this position. Most people still support gay marriage. Most people don't have an issue with the LGBT, but with the continuous escalation of the rest of the alphabet. Still, several people responded to this post, reinforcing the idea that gay marriage opened the doors for more extreme ideologies.
Gay marriage opened the door for more extreme ideologies. Yeah, because it did. And now what do you have? Transgenderism. I generally feel sorry for this person because this person legitimately supported the LGBT in their fight for gay marriage. And then what happened? This person wound up regretting it with all the abominations that came afterwards. However, the bright side, this person actually realized they were wrong. And now they openly admit it.
Someone sensible responded to this by saying, or you could ban kids' transgender surgeries and have gay marriage at the same time.
Can you ban transgendered surgeries? Well, take the US for example. One state might ban it, but another state might legalize it. So all the mother has to do, and let's be honest, it's mostly the mother, all she has to do is go to the state where it's legal. At least that's my understanding. I might be wrong. I hope I am. And this Christine Haynes person replies, nope, we tried that and I'm no longer interested in half measures. Yeah, I can actually agree with that, because she's right. They tried that, they tried the appeasement, and what happened? The LGBT wanted more.
To which the OP replied, "Nope, we tried that and I'm no longer interested in half measures." To the guy who said this, and for the other 14% of Republicans who no longer support gay marriage, I understand what's led you here. But just like you don't want to be categorized and stereotyped, neither do we. Not all gay people want to see kids at drag shows. Not all trans people believe that minors should be able to undergo surgical transition. These common stereotypes are often misrepresentations of the majority opinion. I'm sure you understand this concept, as you've had your own share of controversies that people continuously bring up as if it represents the majority of the group. Don't let the extremists ruin the freedom of everybody else in this community.
So, how do you keep the extremist minority from ruining the whole community? Well, I said it earlier, you have to gatekeep. And apparently, the vast majority of gay people didn't gatekeep. And then their whole organization got taken over by the radical minority. And as a result, they lost the trust of people like this Haynes person. Well, that's it for my thoughts on this video. Take care out there in Clown World.